Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In Surah Baqarah, verse 59, Allah says, فَبَدَّلَ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا قَوْلًا غَيْرَ الَّذِي قِيلَ لَهُمْ فَأَنزَلْنَا عَلَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا رِجْزًا مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ بِمَا كَانُوا يَفْسُقُونَ. And the translation of this verse is, but those who wronged changed the words to a statement other than that which had been given to them, so we sent down upon those who wronged a punishment from the sky because they were defiantly disobeying. Now, one of the biggest weaknesses in humans is that we tend to obsess over things. We crave for them, we desire them, fall in love with them, and then we get so emotionally attached that we feel that we cannot live without them. There are multiple things that we obsess over: children, spouse, friends, money, wealth, fame, status, career, university, exams, so many different things. Now, of course, the first question is, how do I know if I am obsessing over something? There is no harm in thinking about these things or setting goals for yourself, that I want to obtain these marks in my exams, I want to work hard to get admission in this university, I want to raise my kids well. That's perfectly fine. Such goals are necessary and productive. These things only become a problem when you start obsessing over them, which means you are constantly, day in and day out, thinking about them. So ask yourself, is there something in this dunya that you are always thinking about, that you are terrified of losing, and that you are always trying to please, or you are too emotionally attached to? If there is something, that is what you are obsessing over. At that moment, you have not made God your priority, and therefore you are violating Tawheed, the very first pillar of Islam. Unfortunately, many of us are involved in this form of shirk, but we are not even aware of it. We don't even consider it shirk because we tell ourselves that we are not worshipping those things. We're just enjoying it, or we're just loving it. But if you love something so much that you are terrified of losing it, then you are indeed worshipping it. So let me give you an example. When you have followers on social media, you start to have fame, right? Now, every time you have to post something, do you think about what will make Allah happy, or do you think about what will make your followers happy? If you have to post something important regarding Islam, but you know that your followers might not like it, what do? Do you post it or not? In the same way, at times we obsess over our children, we obsess over our husband or our wife. We are constantly trying to seek their approval or keep them close to us, and we are too emotionally attached. Now, in the Quran, through multiple examples, Allah teaches us one important lesson. Your tests will come through the things that you are worshipping. Why? Not because Allah enjoys seeing you miserable, but because He's encouraging you to open up your eyes, realize the shirk that you are involved in, and run towards Him before the doors of Tawbah are shut. For example, the Pharaoh thought he was God. He loved his power, he loved his kingdom, but in particular, he was most proud of the beautiful river Nile that flowed right next to his palace. In fact, according to the Old Testament, the Pharaoh would walk to the river every morning because it was a beautiful sight. He felt that he was in control of this beautiful kingdom. And also in the Torah, it mentions that this is one of the reasons why one of the signs Allah sent the Pharaoh was that all of the water turned into blood. So the Pharaoh was obsessing over his power, and in specific the beauty of the river that he felt he controlled. So what was the azab that came for him? The same water he obsessed over and he believed that he controlled became the source of his destruction. That is why of all the different natural calamities that Allah could have sent, Allah chose for the Pharaoh and his army to drown in water. Now let's see another example. The nation of Ad, they were giants. They were known to be so huge that many were as tall as trees. And when Hud alayhi salam, their prophet, would warn them about Allah's azab, they would laugh it off because they believed that being so strong, tall and powerful, how could anything destroy them? They obsessed over their strength. So the most weak, the most feeble thing in nature, which is wind, became their source of destruction, just to let them know that they were far from being strong. In the same way, Bani Israel was told to do jihad and enter the promised land of Palestine. When they were able to do so, they were commanded to humble themselves while entering the land and say hittatun, meaning Allah, please forgive me. The idea was to remind themselves that they were not capable of achieving this victory. This was only because of Allah. So don't be proud. Instead, as we can see in this verse that I just quoted, they changed the word to hintatun, which meant wheat. It was a way of mocking Allah's commands that we aren't here because we're following Allah's instructions. We're just here to eat food because we just spent 40 years in the desert and we're hungry. So because they mocked Allah's commands and they were obsessing over food and drink, so happy that we now have a land of our own and will just relax and eat and drink, what was the azab they faced? A plague that made them so ill they could not eat or drink and they died instantly. So be careful and make sure that you're not obsessing over something or someone, because that is where your test will come. There is no harm in loving or wanting things, but always remember that everything in this world is temporary. Nothing lasts forever and nothing can escape the control of Allah. So if Allah does not give you what you crave and desire, it wasn't good for you. And if He gives it to you, don't worship it. Nothing is worth worshipping other than Allah. Assalamu alaikum.